All right, welcome everybody. If there's anyone in here, we have got everything all squared away and we're about ready to go. Go ahead and switch it to this. Welcome to the stream, guys. I believe this is our third or maybe fourth live stream now. I can't even remember. I can't even keep track. Before the stream even starts, guys, if you could please, before anything, hit the thumbs up, subscribe and hit the notification bell if you're new. Thumbs up on the stream helps the stream tremendously, as well as the channel. So if you guys could do that, it takes less than a second. It'd be so much appreciated. Today we got some betting lines we're going to cover here. We got a couple good games this week. Might not be the most stacked lineup of games that we've seen this year, but nonetheless, we still have a couple games that are definitely worth talking about. And that, these are some lines that we're definitely going to be looking at. And I think there's a lot of opportunities to make some money this week. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch over to the Bovada screen that I've created. I'm going to move our webcams over to the side, over here. I think what I need to do is I need to move the webcams down. So that's what we'll do. We'll move the webcams down. How about that? So that's just how we're going to have to roll for the time being. Kind of make this on the fly, y'all. So if it doesn't look perfect, I apologize. But nonetheless, we got the betting lines up. We got the webcams. I think we're about good to go, Aiden. We have a lot of interesting games, to say the least. There are a couple lines of games that people probably aren't looking at that I might want to talk about. I got Bovada pulled up on here. You got it on your screen?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So that means we are ready to go ahead and go. I didn't even realize Coastal Carolina and App State are playing. That's tied 24-24. A minute left in the fourth quarter. I don't know if anyone in here is any money on that game, but that's where it stands at the moment. So right now I have got, let's see, Saturday is going to be the 14th. So we need to go ahead and scroll down to let's start at the 13th. We have Stanford and Colorado, Aiden. This is the first game we're going to look at here. Colorado is at home. Stanford's an absolutely terrible team. Horrendous. Colorado's 11-point favorites. I'm gonna keep it brief. You might have a lot more to say about this than I do. Colorado's covering that 11 points. Stanford's horrendous.
Yeah, I agree. Coach Prime's been preaching Colorado's, not done and out of the waters yet. Colorado's been getting a lot of heat for the last couple of games and their performances in that. Even in the USC game, that was basically a blowout. All those points were in garbage time. So they're definitely going to take advantage of a bad Stanford team. And Shedeur Sanders' problem has been his O-line. He literally can't do anything. He's getting criticized by Pac-12 coaches for holding the balls instead of throwing them away to avoid tanking his completion percentage, which is just crazy. But that's how much pressure this dude's getting. Like he has no time to throw the ball against a bad Stanford defense. He's gonna have all day to throw to these playmakers who, like, these guys are 4 and 5 stars. Coach Prime has to keep these guys there. You know what I'm saying? You got to feed the dogs, man. And this is a game where that happens. So 11 points is crazy. Colorado's been underrated all year. I don't know what it is. Like, coming into the year, they proved everybody wrong, beating TCU at home. And you and me still said multiple times they're still about a 6-win team, 5-win team, and they're still underrated even for that. And people are calling us, crazy for thinking they weren't going to win 8, 9, 10 games, which is absurd. But nevertheless, Colorado still seems to be underrated.
Yeah, I agree. And Shedeur Sanders is currently, I believe he's number 1 in all of FPS quarterbacks and passing yards. Is having an absolutely tremendous year despite the offensive line he's had. I think that in and alone itself is probably the craziest stat or one of the craziest stats in college football this year. And it's not like he has a ton of weapons on the outside. He has decent receivers, but these aren't guys that are going to be going number 1 or number 2 or first round in the NFL. So what he's able to do with the talent that he has around him is absolutely amazing. I haven't even been paying attention to Colorado as much the past week or two. They did get that win against Arizona State, which was a good win. I think Colorado really needed that. And, those are the kinds of games that Colorado was losing last year. So people can say what they want about Colorado only winning that game by 3 points. I don't give a shit. Colorado wasn't winning those games last year. I'm by no means a Colorado hater or anything like that. In fact, I like Deion Sanders, and I've been pulling for him. And it does piss me off a little bit to see people call Colorado overrated, which, in my opinion, they're underrated. They've achieved so much this year in their first year under Coach Prime, and I think it's only up from here. Colorado's covering the 11 points. Moving on. So we are now on to Saturday officially. 12 o'clock noon. We got Georgia and Vanderbilt. Obviously, we know Georgia's winning the football game. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about that. 31 points is the current line for this. I've personally have gone back and forth. I think it was 32 earlier in the day, if I remember right. And if that's the case, and it's dropped a point to 31. Georgia's been absolutely terrible against the spread this year. They covered for the first time against Kentucky, and then they had a push against Ball State. I'm not high on Vanderbilt. I do think Vanderbilt might be a little bit better than where they were last year. I don't know. They
Are you about
came.
to pick against your Georgia Bulldogs?
I don't think I'm going to pick against my Georgia Bulldogs. I think Vanderbilt's just there's nothing about Vanderbilt that really worries me. Even in a situation where Georgia's up 45-7 in the fourth quarter, I don't even think Vanderbilt, when we have our backups in, is going to put any points up. I think Georgia covers this one. I think they cover for the second straight week.
Yeah, that's a game that I wouldn't even bother like with modern football offenses, being as prolific as they are. Like spreads have gotten wider and wider. I would have to look at like who's Georgia's playing next week and what time that game is. Like, just a whole bunch of different factors. Is Georgia going to be resting a couple guys for next week? I don't know, but Georgia's obviously going to stomp them, but what if they win by 28? And the spread's
Exactly.
31. That's just too much. That's just too much for me to even touch, honestly.
Yeah, I would stay away from this game.
I'll say this though. I'll say this though about Mike Bobo and Carson Beck, and I've said it 100 times. Mike Bobo might feel like he has something to prove with all the Georgia fans talking shit about him. All the analysts. I feel like a lot of people have been at his back, but nevertheless, fans, have been saying that this isn't the team of old, ever since their offensive coordinator left to go coach the Ravens. And with Carson Beck, they haven't been able to, be accurate down the field in the first couple of games. But, we talked about it before. I think he's a completely different quarterback. So I wouldn't be surprised if they come out there hot and put it on him early. But yeah, I just wouldn't touch something with like a 31-point spread.
Especially considering how Georgia's played against some inferior opponents this year. Obviously, we know what they did to the only ranked team they played this year in Kentucky. I guess I'll quiz for y'all. Can y'all guess the team that's put up the most points against Georgia this year? Take a guess. You got UT Martin, Ball State, Auburn, UAB, Kentucky. Which one of those five teams has put up the most points against Georgia this year?
I'm gonna go with Ball State.
Nope, UAB. UAB put up 21 points. For that reason alone, Vanderbilt, comparative to UAB, you don't know what you're going to get from Georgia when you play against these inferior opponents. That alone right there, UAB being the team to put up 21 points against Georgia, could Vanderbilt do the same? Maybe. I don't know. Worth bringing up. Next game, 12 o'clock, Indiana, on the road at Michigan. 33-point favorites for the Wolverines, and this one, Michigan's been on an absolute tear. People can
Michigan.
say, yeah, people can say what they want about Michigan, how they haven't played anybody. I don't. If you have watched any Michigan football this year, regardless of who they're playing, and you can't tell they're a great team, then you just don't know college football. Uh, Trust me, Michigan has its slate coming up. They have a lot of tough games. Aiden was pretty. He's pretty clear that he's taking Michigan into 33 points.
Yep.
Michigan's a great football team this year. Indiana's not very good.
They're the most complete team in the Big Ten. The Penn State, they're coming off a bye week, so we'll see how they look this week. But in my opinion, Michigan State's the most complete football team in the country right now.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much all that needs to be said about that, right? Michigan's just on an
Yep.
absolute roll. Probably my favorite to win the Big Ten this year yet again. But time will tell. Let's see what other lines we got here. Uh,
Alabama and Arkansas, 1 p.m.
where's that at? Yep, there it is. Alabama, Arkansas. Alabama's home. 19-point favorites. Currently ranked number 11th. What's your opinion on this? Let me get your take.
Yeah, Sam Pittman at Arkansas, he took a step back from his first couple of years there where they were ranked like number 8 in the country, I think, at one point. So from his recent seasons, a lot of people are kind of like expectations are blown out the water, from what he did his first couple of seasons. So now, there's not as much talk on Arkansas. They just lost their offensive coordinator, so they're running a new system. And KJ Jefferson, he really has not taken a step forward the last 2 years. We were high on Arkansas last year. You remember that? We thought they were going to be a 9,
Yep,
10 win team.
made a video on
We
him.
thought KJ Jefferson was going to take a step forward last year, and that's just not the case. They have Rocket Sanders at running back, and he's an absolute monster. They lost Trey Knox and a couple other guys to the portal just because KJ Jefferson couldn't get the ball to some of his guys. And these dudes want to win. So with that being said, I think Alabama's going to come in and continue to roll. I think Nick Saban is going to keep the momentum from last game against Texas A&M, and at home they'll beat Arkansas by definitely more than, what is it, 18 and a half,
19.
19? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a 31-10 kind of game is definitely in play here. I mean, Alabama's defense, I think, has been much improved compared to last year. And Alabama, over the past few weeks, I think, has been a little bit of a different team. I think they're starting to get a little confidence and they're starting to get going a little bit. Uh, you would have to think at this point, Arkansas has kind of peaked under Sam Pittman. That's not really a knock on Sam Pittman, but at the same time, I mean, as a head coach, you got to see improvement year after year. And unfortunately for Sam Pittman, that just hasn't been the case. And I love Sam Pittman. He was a great offensive line coach at UGA. A lot of players loved him. And I think he's going to be around at Arkansas for a little bit, considering what he's done, what he's gotten done to Arkansas for the past few years, and comparing what Arkansas was back in 2017, 2018. I mean, it's a completely different culture out there now. They're not winning the games they want to. It is what it is. I'm with you. I think
Well,
Alabama
Arkansas's in a
covers.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off there, but Arkansas is in a tough situation because you have KJ Jefferson, who you have to, style your whole offense around.
Hmm.
And so, is there a guy on the roster that can play in the same system as KJ Jefferson plays? And if not, is it worth completely scratching your whole offense and getting rid of KJ Jefferson? You know,
Yeah,
and
that's
that
a good point.
Arkansas defense kept them out of a lot of games last year. Not necessarily their front seven and their linebackers, but that secondary was barbecue chicken alert last year. It's bad, and it's been the same thing this year. They've been giving up insane amount of passing yards, and Jermaine Burton had himself a game last week.
Yes, he did.
And I think Nick Saban's going to capitalize on that. I think Jalen Miro found his guy in Jermaine Burton, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jermaine Burton goes for a tud and over 100 receiving yards in that game. Honestly.
Yep. This can't be right. Tennessee and Texas A&M, they don't play at 1. They play at 3:30. I guess the Bovada hasn't updated the times on here for some of these games. Nonetheless, that's the next game up. Obviously, this is a game we're definitely going to spend a little bit of time talking about. We've already done a preview prediction on this game. If you guys haven't already seen that, that's the latest video we posted. It should have been up like 2 hours ago, so definitely take a look at that. If you have seen it already, you know where me and Aiden are leaning on this one. Tennessee's 3.5-point home favorites are currently ranked number 19. They're a much different team at home, Aiden, and you watch a lot more Tennessee football than I do. But anyone can look and tell, comparing that Florida game to the rest of the games Tennessee's played this year, primarily at home, Tennessee's just been a completely different team.
Yeah, you know what they say, defense travels, and with offense, that's not always necessarily the case. And with Hendon Hooker, we were able to take D shots down the field and be a lot more explosive. But this year it's a lot more quick game stuff, and a lot more relying on the run with Jalen Wright and Jabari Smalls and Dylan Sampson. So I think at home we are going to be able to run the ball and have some explosive plays. I think Texas A&M's front seven, they're a good front seven, but Cooper Mays was back last week. He had a bye week this past week, or 2 weeks ago. He had a bye week this week, so he's coming back healthy. A lot of guys were banged up after the first couple of games on the offensive line, so they're going to be healthy. And I'm looking for like Squirrel White to step up. We lost Brew McCoy, that was tragic, and we got number 34, who's supposed to be like our Walmart version of Brock Bowers. He's definitely on clearance. I don't want. I don't want to talk crap, about a Tennessee player, but he's got a couple years to develop. But anyways, yeah, I think that the offense, at home, it's going to be an explosive a high, intensity environment. Tennessee thrives at home, and we'll be able to be successful on offense.
Yeah, I agree. And Texas A&M, I know they've had a couple bad losses. That Miami loss now, considering what Miami did last week, is looking more worse now than it did a few weeks ago. And then obviously coming off a loss against Alabama, an emotional loss. I mean, Texas A&M was in that game. They had the lead for a good portion of the game too. That was a tough loss to swallow. I don't think it was a season-ending kind of deal. I mean, in a way it is. Texas A&M's playoff hopes are now over, but I mean, there's still plenty of games on Texas A&M schedule to what they can win and make a New Year's Six bowl. I just like you said, Neyland Stadium is very electric. Momentum swings very heavily in that stadium. If Tennessee gets that momentum, teams have a lot of trouble moving the ball down the field. It gets loud in there. Me and you were very high on Max Johnson. I love watching him play and watching the film on him. He can absolutely sling the ball. And he's going to have to come out from the get-go, from the first whistle, doing that. If I think Texas A&M is going to have any chance in this game, Texas A&M is going to have to find a way to put up points. I think Tennessee's offense at home is definitely just different, and they're going to put up points as well, regardless of this Texas A&M defense. And I think Tennessee's going to have success running the ball. I know A&M's done a good job of stopping the run. They haven't seen a Tennessee running offense all year, so I like Tennessee to cover the 3.5. Moving
Yeah,
on.
and I said it in the video, but that secondary from Tennessee, that could be a big problem. We
Mm-hmm.
run so much man coverage. And the thing about Max Johnson is his timing and his footwork so good. He's always in position to throw the football. So, and he can deliver the ball accurately at any point on the field. Like he has an NFL arm. That's my favorite thing about him. And so, with guys like, Kamal Haddon in your secondary, you could be prone, to some big plays. But, with that being said, our front seven defensively has been so good. We led the SEC in sacks before the bye week. I haven't checked it since then. But, with guys like, Joshua Joseph, Tyler Barron, Norman Lott, like our front seven and our D line specifically is like star studded. We got a deep, deep D line. And, I'm hoping we can get enough pressure on Max Johnson, similar to what Alabama did in that second half, and just, keep him from getting the football because Alabama in that first half, they were dropping 8 and Max Johnson was able to make plays and then do it with his legs if nothing else came to it. So Max Johnson definitely is going to be a big threat with the talent that Texas A&M has. And there's been some Texas A&M players talking shit. One dude who played football in high school at Tennessee around Knoxville was talking some shit that went to Texas A&M, saying he was going to go there until he saw the soft players that Tennessee was recruiting. So it'll be fun to see how that game plays out. I think that dude's a D lineman.
Really, I did not even
I'm
hear
not
about that.
sure.
That's interesting to know.
Yeah.
I did not know about that. I think this is another game Bovada hasn't updated time wise. I want to say this USC Notre Dame game is a night game, 7:30, if memory serves right. Right now, Notre Dame, the line hasn't moved. It's still 2.5. Notre Dame's actually favored in this game, despite coming off a tough loss to Louisville. Again, we've have we uploaded this one? I can't remember. We did a preview prediction on this. I don't think it's up just yet. Um,
Yeah, no, it's not.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I had to think for a second. Yeah, USC's defense or Lincoln Riley's defense is the same shit that it's been for the past 7, 8 years, however long he's been coaching college football. They can't get a stop. Players can't tackle. Technique's terrible. Misaligned. You're going up against a Notre Dame team that has the most talent that USC is going to have seen all year. Uh, I don't care what Notre Dame did against Louisville. I don't care how much they struggled offensively. Notre Dame's going to find ways to move the ball. They're going to score points. There's a reason Notre Dame's favored in this game, despite USC still being a top 10 team. I like Notre Dame in this one. Sam Hartman, we talked a little bit about it. Just a little spoiler for the preview prediction. Sam Hartman's going to absolutely tear this team apart if they want to come out misaligned. Veteran quarterback, can get it done. He can make tough throws if he has a clean pocket, which I think Notre Dame's offensive line is going to be good enough to protect him in this game. It's a home game. I like the 2.5 points for Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame's going to win for sure. I'll leave my official prediction for the video, but you mentioned it, that USC defense, they can't do the basic things right, and that seems to be the case for Lincoln Riley defenses, but this Notre Dame team is battle tested. Sam Hartman's he's a veteran quarterback. He's been doing it for a long time, and they do have weapons. They have two good running backs with one of the best offensive lines in college football. So, I think that they're just going to run the football down their throat, and then Sam Hartman's a great quarterback, so he'll be able to make reads off of that, depending on how they want to go about trying to stop the run. But that's just what I would think. 2.5. That kind of blows my mind because do people think that Louisville wasn't a good team? I mean, you watch film on Louisville. I think Louisville's a great team. I love what they do offensively. Going back to the Lamar Jackson days. But they've put together a solid defense this year as well. They're a good team. They played Duke at Duke, and Duke was a very highly rated team at that time. They should have won against Ohio State. So they've already played a bunch of these great teams. USC hasn't really played anybody. They just came off an overtime win versus Arizona. So 2.5 points, it's crazy to me, man. I mean, like, where is it coming from? Like, I know the offense is electric, but they haven't played any good defenses, like, even remotely. Colorado was in the game with them, bro.
Yep. Yeah, the bookmakers must know something that we don't. I mean, that's just one of those lines you look at and you just kind of scratch your head in a little bit and you're like, hey, really? And the thing with USC too, they're about to start a very tough stretch of games. I mean, this is a team that still has to play Washington, Oregon, Utah. name whatever good Pac-12 team. They're probably on USC's schedule. If USC loses this game, they're not making the playoffs. And I say that because USC's not the teams I just mentioned that they got to play in the Pac-12. They're not going through that slate undefeated. They're losing another game for sure. Call this a must-win for USC. I don't know. If they lose this game, I just don't see any shot of them getting in the playoffs, and that's just how it is. Moving on here. I don't really know what other games. Oh, duh. 3:30, Oregon, Washington. Did a video on this. This one is out for sure. Washington is 2.5-point favorites. Is that what the line was when we did the video?
Yeah, I think so. Two
Was
and a
it
half or three.
2.5 or
It might
3?
have
Yeah,
moved a little, which is a
Oh,
big difference.
it
That's a
is.
massive difference. Obviously, it's a field goal.
Yeah, so we talk about it. The bookmakers typically give a home team 3 points. This is about really close to a pick'em game as you can get, meaning that it's a 50-50 either way.
No, you're
Um,
right. You're right. I'm sorry. It was 3 points.
it
It
was
was
3.
3 points. So it moved. Yeah, yeah. So because of that fact, that reminded me. So it moving down to 2.5. That makes me think either a lot of people are putting money on Oregon, or people just don't think Washington State's gonna win. Or I mean, the bookmakers don't think they're gonna cover.
Yeah.
There's just no way.
And this is going to be such a tough game to pick. I mean, obviously in a preview prediction, if you've seen it already, you saw who we picked. This is a tough game for me. I mean, I've gone back and forth, and I love Washington, by the way. I mean, I'm very high on them. I had them in my top, 10 before the season even started. I mean, this is a team that I knew was going to be really good, and they are every bit of what I thought they were going to be. They have a really good offense. They are a little bit questionable in defense. There are times where I think they're giving up a lot of yards and a lot of points to teams I don't think they should be giving up a lot of yards and points to. This is going to be the best offense Washington's played by far. You're going to run into one of the best offensive lines you'll face all year. They got NFL talent across the board. Bucky Irving and their staple of NFL running backs that Oregon has to go along with, of course, Bo Nix and what he can do with his legs. Oregon's going to be able to move the ball, I think, on the ground. And there's a guy who commented on our video saying that the weather is supposed to be pretty crummy and it's supposed to be rainy. That's an advantage for Oregon, I would think. Washington, obviously, they can run the ball, but obviously Michael Penix Jr., what he can do with his receivers, the ball is going to want to go through the air for Washington. I don't think there's a wrong pick here. I mean, if someone picks Washington, I'm not even going to sit here and try and debate like, no, you're wrong. I'm 50-50 on this game. I'm just going to be honest. I have to pick because that's just what I have to do for the videos, and I picked Oregon. I'm not going to go back on my mind now. I mean, I just don't have anything to really change my mind at this point. I'm taking Oregon to win the game outright.
In the preview prediction, I listed off for like 5 straight minutes reasons to pick Oregon, and then I picked Washington. So I just think that everybody thinks Oregon's going to win. Even I am like, dude, I don't think Washington even has a chance. So, like, I don't know. Like, I just think everybody is really high on Oregon. And then the second biggest reason I didn't pick Oregon was because of Bo Nix. I watched a lot of Auburn games when he was there, and it just left a bad taste in my mouth. And, I still see some of the issues that he had at Auburn, which Oregon's done a great job of developing him as a quarterback. He's a completely different quarterback, but still some of the issues that he has are just major red flags for me. Go in the video if you go watch the video if you want to see specifically what that is. But yeah, I don't know. Penix, they won last year. Penix threw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns or something. I don't know. Like you said, the offense is explosive for Washington, and the defense has been helping them out this year by getting turnovers. That's why the scores have been so lopsided. They haven't really been stopping anybody, to be honest.
Well, I'm going to be watching that game. It's probably one of the biggest Pac-12 games we'll see all season, honestly. I mean, we'll have some other good matchups, of course, but I mean, this is by far the game of the week. I think this is another interesting game, too. Some people might not see it the same way I do. 7 o'clock, LSU versus Auburn. I am pretty sure Auburn's coming off a bye week, and LSU just came off a win against Missouri. Missouri's an okay team this year. I mean, I think LSU, they won on the road. I mean, it's tough to win on the road in the SEC as is. So let's give LSU a little bit of credit. Coming off their second loss, playoff hopes are pretty much out the window. They did find a way to win against Missouri. 11-point favorites against Auburn, though. I don't know what people's opinion on Auburn is after the Georgia game. I'm still not very high on them. I don't think Auburn's a great team this year. I think Hugh Freeze is going to take them in the right direction. The quarterback situation at Auburn, though, is just such a mess right now. They can't even throw the ball. They don't even try to throw the ball hardly. They did have a lot of success running the ball against Georgia. I don't see that being the case against LSU. I think LSU's offense is too good. Despite how bad LSU's defense is, I think LSU is just going to come out and just simply score a lot more points than Auburn. I don't think they're going to keep up. I think LSU covers the 11-point spread here.
Yeah, 11 points. I wouldn't really look so much at that. What's catching my eyes, the over-under is 60.5.
Mm-hmm.
As much as Auburn runs the football, if they can do that successfully, which I feel like they can against LSU's, atrocious defense, they'll eat a lot of the clock up. It might not be, big gashing 60-yard runs for touchdowns, but it could be, 15, an 8, a 7-yard gain, stuff like that. Just keep that clock rolling. So 60.5, I like that. I'm going to look more into that later. I just saw that. But, yeah, I don't know. With this LSU defense, it's atrocious. And LSU scores quick. How many times have you seen teams like, as a Tennessee fan, I've seen it. You have an explosive offense with an atrocious defense. Your defense is on the field for 12 plays, and then your offense goes out there and scores in 4. Your defense is right back on that field, bro,
Yep.
for another 8-play drive. That happens 2 or 3 more times. The defense is cooked. So, I think the over-under being 60.5 there, that's something I look at. I like Auburn in that. Or the under, rather. Shit, my bad.
You're good. Yeah, I don't know. I got to see more Auburn this year before I really start developing an opinion on them. I know they lost to Texas A&M 27-10. That was a road game for them. Auburn, and I think a lot of what happened in the Auburn-Georgia game was just due to the fact that Auburn was at home and weird shit just happens at Jordan-Hare Stadium. I got to see more Auburn. For purposes of the stream, give me LSU in the 11 points. Moving on to the ACC, a conference that has just not been talked about a lot this year for obvious reasons, other than maybe Florida State, Duke. North Carolina's been kind of a sleeper team, though. They play Miami. North Carolina hasn't really had a game yet other than maybe the App State game where I looked at them and being like, okay, I'm disappointed in them. But North Carolina's done nothing but impress me this year. And it started with that win against South Carolina, that 2-touchdown win. North Carolina's looked really good ever since. I think they just got done blowing out Syracuse, who's not a great team by any means, but not a terrible team. North Carolina's 4-point favorites over Miami. And I'll say this right now. Had Miami not had that blunder against Georgia Tech, I think I would have honestly been a lot more confident at maybe picking Miami. I don't know. I mean, I probably would have picked North Carolina regardless. Coming off a loss like that to a terrible Georgia Tech team who just got their shit pushed in by Bowling Green a week before, how do you even get, as Mario Cristobal, I don't even know how you get your players ready for this game, honestly. I mean, they'll be ready to go, I guess, because it's a big team, but I'm rambling. I'm taking North Carolina in the 4 points here. I'm sorry. I think Miami's season's cooked after that. I think it's absolutely cooked.
Drew. People are calling for Cristobal's job. People are calling for him to be fired, man. That Miami team is done. You saw players on the sideline losing
Crying,
their cool and
throwing helmets, like
yeah. I mean, for good reason. That's a complete blunder. That's like folding your queen in the last seconds of a chess match. You just can't do it. And like you said, North Carolina's been good this year. They beat and you just mentioned it with Georgia and Auburn. Those rivalry games are different. North Carolina, South Carolina is a big rivalry, and they came out and answered early in the season, and they've just been building on that. They got a plethora of threats for Drake May to throw to, and he's been looking sensational. He's still clear cut in a way people's number 2 quarterback in this year's NFL draft. For good reason. He hasn't done anything to lose that spot. You mentioned the strength of schedule other than that South Carolina game, which I agree with. But, nevertheless, I think this spread is a little bit too close for, in favor of Miami. I was surprised it wasn't like 6 or 6.5 points, So I definitely like North Carolina in this.
Yeah, this is a game North Carolina has to win. I mean, this is a must-win. This is a Miami team that is just on their heels now in a span of a week. Like we mentioned, the players were literally crying, throwing helmets on the field after that game. I couldn't even imagine. I haven't looked into it. I couldn't even imagine what the morale at practice has been like this week. I honestly couldn't imagine. 4 points, that's just... It's almost scary because it's almost like too much of a no-brainer, but if I'm going to get this wrong, I'm going to get it wrong by using common sense. I'm taking North Carolina in the 4 points. This is an interesting SEC game. You won't hear about it because neither of these teams are ranked anymore, but they were a week ago. 7:30 p.m. We got Missouri going on the road to take on Kentucky. Kentucky's currently 3-point favorites. Just got blown out by Georgia. We know how that went. Missouri came off a pretty tough loss to LSU, losing 49-39. Missouri played a good game, though. I mean, they played against a decent LSU team and had the lead for a majority of the game. Missouri did have control, but in the end, they just got outscored, I think, 22-7 in the fourth quarter, and the rest was just history from there. Now, these are two teams that I think have significantly improved, especially Missouri from last year. Um, Eli Drinkwitz, the head coach from Missouri, I think this was kind of a do or die year for him. I mean, this is a guy who's been just constantly sitting at 500, going 6-6, 6-7, 7-6 every single year. An SEC school is just not going to put up with that for an enormously long time. So I think this is kind of his last chance, and I think he's done a pretty good job. Missouri has a legitimate shot to get to 7 or 8 wins this year. As far as this game goes, though, I don't know. I really don't know because I don't know what Mark Stoops is going to have this Kentucky team like after a blowout loss to UGA. It seems like Kentucky always just disappears in the big games, though. But when you look at games like this, these are the kind of games that Kentucky always sneaks away and wins more times than not. But I do like Brady Cook in Missouri. I think Missouri's had some pretty decent wins, especially at Kansas State. I like Missouri's offense. I think they played. I think they have a lot more going for them compared to Kentucky after last week. I'm gonna take Missouri, the underdogs, and the 3 points. I think Missouri wins this game outright, but it'll be a close one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go the other way with you. I like Kentucky coming off a loss against Georgia. They just played the best team in the country. It's at Kentucky. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're coming home after a tough loss to Georgia. They still got a lot of important games in the SEC East for them. So I don't think that they're gonna, bend over and lay down. I think offensively, their O line is too big for that Missouri front seven. That was the biggest blaring thing to me is that Missouri front seven was not even able to really contest LSU's offensive line in the third and fourth quarter. Just because of the sheer size of the guys. So I like Kentucky coming off a loss. The biggest red flag for me offensively is obviously the quarterback Leary.
Mm-hmm.
He missed some big throws in that Georgia game that put him behind earlier. You mentioned it in one of the videos we just posted recently, but he's going to be a big red flag. But I think they're just going to be able to lean on the run game because Missouri's defense seems not to be able to stop it.
Yeah, Kentucky's one of those teams. They're very similar to Georgia in a lot of ways, just obviously not as talented. They have big offensive linemen that are going to lean on you, and they're always going to have a running back or two that will absolutely just gash you. You got guys like Ray Davis, and then, years ago you had Benny Snell. What's the guy's name that was there last year, the year before? Carlos Rodriguez, I think his name was, or something Rodriguez. That's all I know. That's just how Kentucky rolls, and teams either can stop it or they can't. If they can't, a lot of times they lose. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kentucky win this game. I'm not going to go back on my pick. 3 points. Again, this is one of those games where it's kind of a pick 'em. I can see why people have Kentucky winning this game. Moving on. So I'll be honest with you guys. I haven't had a chance to watch a whole lot. We got UCLA and Oregon State. This is at 8 o'clock, according to Bovada. If Bovada's been weird at the times, if that's right or not, let me know. That's what they have it listed. Oregon State currently ranked 15. UCLA currently ranked number 18. Oregon State's 3.5-point favorites in this one. And you probably might know a little bit more about these two teams than I do. I've been pretty high on Oregon State, though, from the little bit I've seen.
Yeah, what Oregon State's been able to do with DJ Uyangale, it's been impressive to me. That he's looked like a different quarterback, and from what I've been seeing defensively, they do a lot of creative stuff, and they've been doing their job this season. That's just in clips that I see. You know, I haven't watched enough film on this game to be able to make a pick confidently yet. Oregon State being favored by 3.5. I haven't really looked at this game yet. That surprises me. I would have expected UCLA to be the favorite, but it is at Oregon State. I don't know how much of a home advantage that they have, but just off instinct, I'd pick UCLA here. But I'd have to look. They're coming off a big win against Washington State, who I have highly regarded UCLA is. So I think that's a big win for them. So I think with they have some momentum. It doesn't really matter for UCLA if they're playing away or at home because people don't come to their home games.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like UCLA.
Yeah, I think I'm also going to take UCLA.
Instinct.
Yeah, same reasons. I'm taking UCLA. That was a big win that they had, and I can't really sit here and try to act like I know a lot about both these teams because I don't. I mean, I can only watch so much football in a day. I'm one person, and I watch Pac-12 when I can. But by the time the 10:30 games roll around, I'm done. For the day. Instinctively, give me UCLA. Give me the Bruins.
There's a couple other games I want to talk about. I know Texas Tech is playing Kansas State, and I think they're like 1.5 point favorites the last time I checked.
I'm gonna scroll down and look. See Texas Tech, Kansas State.
3:30
Yep.
game, I'm
Yep.
pretty sure.
Bovada has it at 7. It could be 3:30. I don't know. Like I said, they've been weird with the times, but I
Okay,
found it
no,
right
well,
here.
if it's at 7.
Yeah, Texas Tech,
Yeah,
one and a
Texas
half point
Tech.
favorites.
Yeah, Texas Tech, their offense is explosive. Go watch them play Oregon. Go watch the highlights of that game. You'll fall in love with Texas Tech's offense if you're an offensive guy. They have a 6'9" tight end, bro. He is 6'9". And dude, you talk about a red zone threat. That's like Gronk was like what, 6'7", 6'8". So
Yep.
yeah, 6'9", and he can move too. They line him up at receiver, and they'll run him on an in route on the 5-yard line. 1-on-1 with the corner. Their quarterback, I think his last name's Scrow. They're I think 8-2 or 9-2 with him as their quarterback. So he just hasn't been able to be healthy the last couple of seasons. But they're explosive. They run a lot of unbalanced formations, trips with like a nasty. So like 4 receivers on one side of the formation, and then they'll just run like quarterback, with the pulling guard the other way. A lot of interesting stuff like that. So and you mentioned earlier, Kansas State, they lost to Missouri. And I think you have Missouri a little bit highly on your board than I do. Missouri hasn't shown me too much. They almost lost that game to Kansas State at home, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, came down to
Can't remember.
it was a field goal. I think it came down to a long field goal, in fact, that Missouri made to
Yeah.
win the game.
Yeah, so like I'm not super high on Kansas State this year. I know a lot of people like them, but I just really like Texas Tech. Their defense was making some plays against Oregon as well. Getting to Bo Nix and causing some pressure. Also, I forgot to mention. It's just coming to me now. Texas Tech, watching their defense, they do a great job sending pressure, disguising pressure. We were actually watching film together, and they were showing some A gap pressure with their 2 middle linebackers. Kind of like a double A gap pressure look, and the guy fake dropped back, waited for that center to double team, the nose, and then went straight in. Like stuff like that. I just like to see. It shows that you have a defense that's been playing together for a couple of years because normally you don't install that type of stuff till later, and it's later in a defensive unit, if that kind of makes sense. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so I like Texas Tech this year. I think they'll, you know, Kansas State's a good football team, but I think Texas Tech will win by like a field goal or something. So 1.5, I'm comfortable taking.
Yeah, I like Texas Tech in this one too. Kansas State's been honestly a lot more disappointing than I had figured they would be this year. I know they lost a little bit at the draft, and they were a pretty good team last year. But I mean, this is the same team that lost to Oklahoma State, an Oklahoma State team that lost 33-7 to South Alabama. Oklahoma State's an absolutely terrible team this year, and Kansas State lost to them. I'm not high on Kansas State nearly as much now after some weeks of college football. Yeah, I like Texas Tech
Yeah,
in this one.
that takes me to another game. You mentioned Oklahoma State. They play Kansas this week, right?
Yes, Oklahoma State. Yep,
I
home,
just saw this.
3 points.
I'm sorry. Where is it at? 3
It,
points.
well, it's at Oklahoma State. Kansas is 3-point favorites. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I know that Kansas lost their starting quarterback. Did they lose their second string quarterback? And if not, why is this spread what it is? Why is Kansas State not rolling over Oklahoma State?
So, all I can tell you about Kansas is they just absolutely boat raced UCF. They were up 24-0 at halftime. Who's their quarterback's name? It was Daniels was number 1, right? Jason Bean is number 2. I think he's okay. I think he's still playing. Jason Bean played okay against UCF.
He's played before too, correct? That's the guy who stepped in last year?
I think so. I think Jason
Either
Bean,
way,
he
though,
played
either
against
way.
Texas too. It's starting to come to me a little bit. Yeah, he played
Okay.
against Texas. He played okay,
Yeah.
ish.
Whether it's the guy that stepped in last year or not, this Kansas team was underdogs against UCF.
Yeah.
Like what's up with people sleeping on Kansas? Do we remember what they did last year? And if I like what they do offensively out the pistol. They do a lot of interesting stuff. They implement a lot of wing T stuff in there. A lot of orbit motion, and you're seeing with Mike McDaniel's for the Dolphins that shit's working really good. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And it's definitely been working for Kansas. Their issue obviously they haven't been able to throw the ball in must throw situations since last year. That's been the case. But I mean, you mentioned Oklahoma State's not a good football team this year compared to normal Oklahoma State teams. So I like Kansas in that game too. Them being road dogs, I think they played Texas on the road, so they're used to it. Whatever, it's not going to be nearly the same environment. So, yeah, give me Kansas.
Give me the Jayhawks as well. I'm not high on Oklahoma State. I mean, shit, they lost 33-7 to South Alabama. Not a very good team this year. I like Kansas. I think Kansas is a lot better than most people give them credit for. I think they're better than the bookmakers are giving them credit for. Give me the Jayhawks. This game just
There's
I
one
skip
other game.
Florida
Go
South
ahead if you have
Carolina.
one.
I have Florida South Carolina. That just came to my mind. I just saw it right here. South Carolina's 2-point favorites. Give me the Gamecocks and then some.
Yeah, yeah. I'm with you, dude. I'm with you. You said it's at South Carolina.
It's at South Carolina. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. They got South Carolina got Trey Knox from Arkansas, tight end. I really like watching him play. They got a couple other dudes at receiver, outside guys they have a sure number one receiver. I can't think of his name, but he's a monster. He's a big dude too.
Oh,
They got some
Leggett.
guys in the slot yeah, yeah, Leggett. There you go, number 17. Um, he's a dog. They got a couple dudes in the slot that can play. And Spencer Rattler, I say this all the time. I called him Spencer Rattled last year because he was always rattled in the pocket, always escaping for no reason. He's really matured. Their offensive line hasn't gotten much better, but he's gotten much better as a quarterback when dealing with the pressure. They got a good running back too. Shane Beamer, as much as I've been giving him a lot of hate, I'm not hate, but I've been real hard on Shane Beamer. I think that he's proved himself to be a good coach, for who he is, whatever. But yeah, Florida at home or at playing away notoriously bad at home. They've been notoriously good in recent history. So them away with the season they've been having. Graham Mertz is decent. I don't think he's going to be able to make the plays down the road compared to Spencer Rattler with all the weapons that South Carolina has. So yeah, I'm with you on South Carolina.
Yeah, and these are two teams that, regardless of how their seasons are going, the fans are always going to be engaged. William Bryce Stadium is still going to probably be sold out for this one, and this is a revenge game for South Carolina. If y'all remember last year, South Carolina traveled to Florida and just got absolutely destroyed. I think 38-6 was the final on that one. This is a much different South Carolina team. I think now compared to where they were in that Florida game last year. And I'm just, for obvious reasons, I'm not very high on Florida. I think Florida's not very good this year. And I don't think South Carolina's a great team by any means either. But I just give me South Carolina in this. They're covering that 2 points. That might be my lock of the week right there, if I had to choose.
Yeah, there's one more game I wanted to talk about, bro. We talked about Arizona and Washington.
I think you're thinking like Arizona and Washington State. Is that what you said?
Did we talk about them already?
No, we have not.
Okay, yeah, Arizona versus Washington State. Washington State's 18.5 point favorites coming off of a loss against UCLA. And, just offshore, this is just one of the things I looked at in preparation for this. I like Arizona. Arizona played USC to a triple overtime. And I know USC is terrible, but we were watching some film in preparation for a Washington video. We watched them play Washington, and they really impressed me
Yeah.
watching them. I think that their quarterback is a playmaker. I think that their offense is elite. So I think that it's going to be one of those tit for tat games where, like, Washington State might score every possession but one, and, Arizona might score every possession but two. And so for the spread being 18.5, for that reason, I like Arizona.
You see 18 and a half? I see 7.5 on my screen in Washington State's favor. On
Oh, I don't know. I
there was
must have
a
been completely mistaken.
there was a game that was 18 and a half that I saw earlier. I don't know which game it was. I don't know if maybe you like saw that. But yeah, I got
Yeah,
seven and a half
that
on my
must have been
screen.
the case.
Yeah.
7.5. Okay, that's completely different. Yeah, well, hell. Yeah, I'm not that. I don't like Arizona that much.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
that's a
like
little bit of
Arizona
a
that much,
difference.
bro.
That's a little bit of a point difference. That's a yeah, 11 points. Yeah, give me Washington. Give me Washington State in that one. I will agree with you. Though Arizona has looked impressive on film. They did a lot of great things, and they have some playmakers that can make some plays on the outside too. I like Arizona's quarterback. I think he's able to scramble and make plays with his legs and pick up the first downs when they need him to. And that was a good game they played against USC. I mean, I think USC, honestly, coverage wise, didn't play bad, but the guys on Arizona's team were just winning. And they're going to need that again against Washington State, I think, if they want to have a chance of winning this one. It's on the road, though. Washington State's not a bad team by any means. And to expect Arizona to do what they did on offensively, like they did against USC 2 weeks in a row, I just don't really see that happening. Washington State has a better defense, too. I like Washington State to cover the 7.5 here.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I think the over will hit though. It's only 59 points. Arizona scored 40 points in like two of their games this year. Washington State's been in the high 30s. This is definitely going to be a shootout because Arizona's defense can't really stop anybody. Washington State, I think, gave up like 38 to UCLA last week or 37, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that over could possibly hit for sure. But that was just one of the games I was looking at. I must have got the spread wrong, but another team, the last team I wanted to look at was Wyoming. I don't know who they play. I think they were 1.5 point dogs, 1.5 point favorites.
So Wyoming, they play Air Force. Air Force is 10.5 point favorites in that one. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't know much about Air Force. I haven't seen an Air Force football game in all this year. Uh,
See, I just wanted to talk about them because they've won me some, they've won some games this year.
mm-hmm.
They've stayed in some games that they should have stayed in. And I think they've been looking really good. They run a pro style offense. They got some playmakers. They're a little bit undersized defensively, but I mean, for 10.5 points, I don't know. I'm really high on Wyoming. I just have to look at it a little bit more
Air
on the Air
Force.
Force side.
Air Force has to be undefeated or something. They have to have won a lot of games by a lot of points because, like I said, like Wyoming's not a bad team, like you said. Wyoming has looked, and they have some ball players out there on this Wyoming
Yeah.
team. So for Air Force to be double-digit point favorites, I might need to start looking into some Air Force games. I didn't know they were like that.
They got a great coach, Wyoming does. But yeah, what's the spread again?
10.5 for Air Force.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know what the case with that is. Can you look up Air Force's schedule?
Yeah, I'm doing that right now as we speak. Air Force Falcons. They're 5-0. See, last game they played was against San Diego State. They won 49-10. Beat San Jose State 45-20. Beat Utah State 39-21. I mean, yeah, Air Force. I mean, they've put together a lot of blowout wins this year. There isn't a game on their schedule that I see where every game they've won by double digits. So I mean,
Assume they're ranked.
they're not actually. If they're not ranked, they're close though. They got to be close. I think Wyoming would probably be close too. I think Wyoming only has that one loss.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Wyoming. Yeah, Wyoming lost a heartbreaker to Texas Tech, and I just talked about Texas Tech. I really like them. Um, they played Texas, and I remember watching that game. The score doesn't really dictate how they played. Like obviously Wyoming just size wise, that's Texas is a SEC team. They beat App State, which is a great football team. They're a great App State's great every year. But like I said, they're not going to blow guys out just because of the size disadvantage that they play with. But I mean, 10.5 against Air Force, man. Like, I don't know, dude. I'm really leaning towards Wyoming. I'm gonna have to watch Arizona play, but I don't know. I might go with Wyoming there.
I'll have to watch a little more. Yeah, I'll have to look more than that before I make a pick on there.
Like, I'm just saying, look out for Wyoming, dude. They've been balling this year. They got a good team. They're well coached. So, like, Wyoming's a good football team.
I don't think there's any other games on here I have the breath for. Yeah, I think that about does it for the betting lines. As far as my lock, if I had a lock pick, I don't know if it was gonna be. I think Florida, South Carolina, or that North Carolina Miami game. Give me North Carolina in the 4 points against Miami. That's gonna be my lock of the week. I just don't see any way in hell Miami comes back and makes that that close of a game.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Kansas over Oklahoma State. Like I said earlier, I love what Kansas does offensively, and Kansas State's a little bit in the dumps, so that's gonna be my lock.
Well, that does it for the betting lines. And we want to talk a little bit about the SEC. While we do that, I'm gonna go ahead and get this screen pulled up for you guys because I gotta make some changes. There's our schedule right there, guys. We're going live Sunday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, roughly around 10 o'clock. So definitely be on the lookout on those days. We'll be streaming late at night, nitty gritty after dark. And what I'm gonna go ahead and do here is I'm gonna go ahead and change that. Let's see, bear with me. All right, just about ready here. I'm fixing the webcam so we look a little more. All right, here we go. Need to fix the text a little bit. And we want to talk a little bit more about the SEC. What's on the plate for today, as far as the SEC goes?
Yeah, well, I wanted to talk about Heupel coming off of a bye week. The Tennessee Vols coming into a tough stretch of games. They got Texas A&M this week, Alabama next week, Kentucky, Missouri, and then the king of them all, Georgia. So that is a tough slate of games. And I just don't think that Tennessee is going to come out undefeated. As a Vols fan, it pains me to say it, but there's a lot of things I like about this team. I think we're deep up front defensively. I've mentioned that. I think our linebacker core is one of the best it's been in the last couple of years, and our run game is dominant. And our O line's been getting healthier, so it's good that we're going to be healthy. God willing, going into this slate of games. Of course, we lost Brew McCoy, but offensive line wise, hopefully that can be the case. We got a stable of running backs, but with all that being said, I just don't trust the secondary enough, or number one, Joe Milton enough for us to come out of that slate of games undefeated.
Yeah, and I've mentioned this a couple of times too. That slate Tennessee has coming up. I don't think there's a football team in college football that can make it through those slate of games undefeated. I mean, these are one of the toughest things to do in the SEC is to play back-to-back road games, and that's what happens when Tennessee finishes playing against Texas A&M. They got to go on the road to Alabama and then on the road to Kentucky. That in itself is already a brutal part of the schedule. Texas A&M is no pushover either, and anyone who thinks that is just wrong. You're completely wrong. Texas A&M is a legitimate football team, and I think it is going to be a good game, though. I think Tennessee. This game right here will be a good tale of how the rest of the two games, or three or four, that Tennessee has coming up, how they're going to perform in those. I don't know, because I mean, if Tennessee wins this game, they still have their SEC East dreams ahead of them. They can still make the SEC title game if they were to win out. Easier said than done, obviously, but if you lose to Texas A&M, I mean, you could go ahead and throw all that out the window. I don't think Georgia's losing more than one conference game. I do have trust in Heupel. Yeah, I do have trust in Heupel to get this team ready after a bye week. You're playing in Neyland. I think things are going to fall right for Tennessee this week.
He's been good off bye week so far as a head coach at Tennessee because we've had an explosive quarterback who he trusted to take explosive shots. So
Yeah.
in the first quarter last year, we were just so good. We were blowing teams out the water, So this year is going to be a little bit different, Heupel's a laid back guy. There's no secret about that. I'm a defensive guy, so that I love Heupel, but there's something about like me. You mentioned this, seeing a coach yelling at his third string guys when they're up, in the fourth quarter, just like it's the first quarter of a game. Like a Kirby Smart or a Nick Saban. The intensity of a defensive coach, it really shines through. I mean, look at Brett Venables at Oklahoma. That intensity, it trickles down to the team. And I feel like this season we've kind of seen Tennessee come out with some slow starts because of that. Josh Heupel's just, kind of laid back. Everything's laissez-faire. The biggest thing Heupel gets mad at is it like letting when we're trying to go hurry up and the refs let the other team's defense sub.
Uh huh.
That's the only time you see him get mad. That's like the most quarterback coach. It's like the most offensive coordinator shit ever. But yeah, he's super like 50-50. He doesn't get too high, he doesn't get too low. Will that come into effect? Texas A&M's a great team, like you mentioned. I'm not sure, but we're gonna have to win against Texas A&M if we're gonna want to have a chance against Alabama.
Yep.
Because Alabama has a dominant run game. They got Jalen Milroe, who he's been improving. Is he a great quarterback? No, but he's shown that he can make the throws that he needs to. And that's what I want to see with Joe Milton. We're going to be able to see now. We're getting into that point of the season where you're going to be able to tell. If he can't make the throws that he needs to against his Texas A&M team, you think fans aren't going to be calling for Nico? I'm going to be at the UConn game, dude. I'm going to lose my voice screaming for Nico on the sidelines, I know I'm not going to be the only one too, man. I just pray that we win like at least 3 of these games. Alabama at Alabama, that's going to be its own beast. I don't know who Alabama's playing before us. Hopefully they're not coming off a bye. Good Lord, I pray.
I think they are.
But yeah, even
I can confirm that. You can keep going. I'm gonna take a look here though. No, because they take their bye week before LSU. So they play Arkansas this week and then they play Tennessee.
okay, yeah, that's right. We just talked about that. So yeah, they're playing a trash can at home before getting another home game. Is that the case?
Yes.
I think we play them at Alabama, so that's gonna be tough. But yeah, even Kentucky and Missouri, man, they worry me. They worry me looking at our defense. Kentucky not as much because I feel confident we could stop the run. I feel like they're a good team, but it's really going to rely on Joe Milton going forward. Missouri, I think we'll beat Missouri. I think we should beat Missouri. If we don't beat Missouri, I'm not going to a game. I take that back. So
Are y'all on the road at Missouri?
If memory serves me, we have them at home.
Or did y'all play them at home last year? Let me look. I have technology.
I thought we traveled there last year, but I couldn't tell you. I really couldn't tell you.
Y'all are at Missouri this year, November 11th.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, that'll be whatever, But I mean, we should still beat Missouri. If we can't beat Missouri, we shouldn't even show up to the Georgia game.
Yeah, y'all play Georgia the week after that. Y'all get Georgia at home this year, though. I mean, I think that's going to be a great game. I really do. How much?
More optimistic than me.
How much are both? What are both teams going to look like by the time that game rolls around? I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see for sure. I feel like Georgia. You would have to think under Kirby Smart can only get better from here. I mean, I don't really see a situation where Georgia goes back to regressing again. We'll have. I mean, that's still over a month away. We'll see. We'll have a lot more answers for that when that game comes around. So it's Alabama after Texas A&M, Kentucky, Connecticut, Missouri.
Okay, so we got Connecticut in there.
Yeah. So I'm for those. So these 6 games Texas A&M, Alabama, Kentucky, Connecticut, Missouri, Georgia. What do you think the goal is for here? I mean, that's a tough stretch of games. What do you think the record of those 6 games? Like, what are you looking for? Obviously, as a Tennessee fan, you want to go 6-0 on all those games. You want to win them all by 100 points.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like, can we win one of those games that are up in the air? Maybe we shouldn't win. Alabama and Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
Alabama's going to be an away game, like you mentioned. That'll be tough. But we get Georgia at home, maybe that'll definitely have an impact. But will it be enough? I'm not sure. But I think, as a Tennessee fan, we just want to see us win one of those. We got Alabama last year. Let's get one of those big games again this year. We're, with Heupel, we don't want to be a team that just gets 8 wins in the SEC every single year. We want to be contenders. We got to continue to improve. Tennessee fans are impatient. Like I said, they're going to be calling for Nico if Joe Milton's not playing well during that stretch. So with that said, I think that we're going to have to win either against Alabama or Georgia.
Yep.
just to be, I don't know. I mean, because look, like you're supposed to beat Missouri. I'm sorry, their defense is not good enough.
Yeah.
Kentucky, I don't know where that game's going to be at. Like I mentioned, I have a strong belief in our run defense. I think our weakness is the pass. So I think we match up well against Kentucky. Just seeing what I've seen from their quarterback so far.
Yep.
But that Alabama game is going to be interesting too because what are we going to do about Jalen Milroe? It's no secret we like to run man. We got some athletic linebackers that can spy him. So I don't think he's going to break away for, a plethora of big gains. Um,
I
but
think four and
yeah, I mean, we should
two.
beat Kentucky.
I think 4-2 of the stretch of 6 games would be pretty damn good, in my opinion. I think 4-2 is pretty solid.
I mean, it would be. I mean, it'd be good, but that's what should happen. Would you
Hmm.
agree with that? That's what you would look at the schedule and say what should happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. For me as a Tennessee fan, I got ambitions. We got Heupel. It's this new guy. He's been winning everywhere. So let's win one of the games we're not supposed to. Let's beat Alabama or Georgia.
Fair enough. Who do you who do you think the best quarterback in the SEC is right now? I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Is Jaden Daniels really the
Bazooka
best
Joe.
quarterback?
Bazooka Joe.
Uh, no.
No, in all
No.
seriousness, yeah, it's Jaden Daniels. In all seriousness, yeah, Jaden Daniels.
It's crazy,
I
man. This
mean,
is a
he's
guy. Sorry to cut you off. I mean, this is a guy we weren't very high on him coming into this season. You remember when we did the Florida State LSU? We were talking about that game a little bit. We weren't very high on
yeah,
him, and here he is.
no. Well, I mean, last year he wasn't as efficient as he's been this year. His decision
Hmm.
making with the football has improved tremendously. It never was an issue of like accuracy or he just can't throw the ball over 35 yards. No, he just was making some bad decisions with the football last year, and I think that was a lot had a lot to do with his inexperience. And he improved in the offseason. And I think part of the reason I didn't believe in him as much coming into the season is because of how KJ Jefferson did me last year. He scarred me. So you got to show me. And that was the case with Jane Daniels. He's shown me with like a 76% completion percentage, I think. And he can do it with his legs. The only thing with Jane Daniels that scares me is his durability. He just looks kind of skinny out there. I'm not, hating on him, but I just, he takes a lot of hits.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say you've seen
And
the
they,
hits he's taken.
but
Yeah, no, I was just saying like you've seen the hits he's taken. I mean, these aren't like small
yeah, yeah,
hits. He's
yeah.
getting lit the fuck up. You can find
No,
it
no,
all.
no. Yeah, he's getting hit. He's getting hit hard, and LSU's offensive line, they're doing a great job of what and doing what they can. But when he gets pressured, he's escaping the pocket, and yeah, that's where the big hits are coming. He's not necessarily like sliding. He's trying to make a
Hmm.
move on a guy and get as many yards as he can, and that's another thing that kind of held him back last year. He got hurt a little bit towards the end of the season, so I think now he's playing injury free. Mixed with the combination of him just improving over last year in the offseason. Decision making is a lot better. I mean, you can't argue. And he's got Malik Neighbors. He's got a great running back as well. I love their running back. Um, so he has weapons as well. With a high completion percentage and a lot of yards. You can almost bet on him. My favorite thing about Jaden Daniels is you can almost always bet on him to make a play on third down either through the air or with his legs. And when he rolls out, he's still keeping his eyes downfield, baiting dudes with the run and then still keeping his eyes open for a possible throw to a receiver. So that's my favorite thing about Jane Daniels on a third down. He is always, the guy to make the play consistently.
Hmm.
That's why they score so many points. I mean, Drew, I say this all the time. Like, but coaches at every level preach this for a reason. Every offense gets in third downs. Who can convert?
Yeah.
That's why they score so many points. They're converting on third down at such a high clip. Now, yeah, explosive plays and all that helps, but at the very bare bones of it, if you're getting 3 yards in a cloud of dust, if you convert on that, third and 4 or whatever, you're moving the sticks with a fresh set of downs. You're going to score eventually. So Jaden Daniels has been so efficient. That's been why they've been scoring so many points.
Yep. I think it'd be safe to assume Carson Beck's probably a close second. Fun fact: Carson Beck's actually on pace to break in the single season passing yard record for Georgia. Stetson Bennett, yes, Stetson Bennett from last year is currently Georgia's single season passing yards leader. Did it last year. It's over 4,000 yards. I want to say, of course, that does include the postseason and whatnot. Carson Beck has a chance to break that this year. He's on pace to breaking that. He hasn't thrown a whole lot of touchdowns this year, but like Carson Beck's just definitely a guy who's improving week by week. And I think this is the kind of quarterback Georgia's been waiting to see for a long time. A guy who has an NFL arm that can sling the ball downfield. Stetson Bennett, I mean, Stetson Bennett is what Stetson Bennett is. Let's give a lot of credit to Todd Monken. I mean, he took that guy and turned him into a literal Heisman candidate. A walk-on who's been getting bounced around, turned him into a Heisman candidate. Nonetheless, Stetson Bennett did play well in a lot of games. Jake Fromm was just a constant disappointment year after year. I was never high on Jake Fromm. You would really have to go back to Aaron Murray to find the last time Georgia had a legitimate gunslinger back in the pocket that you could rely on to make deep throws down the field consistently. And it seems like Georgia's got that in Carson Beck this year, assuming he keeps on doing what he's been doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm high on Carson Beck. I really liked his timing with his football and his footwork. He was always on time and accurate with his throws. Even the first 2 games of the season when fans were criticizing him, saying he sucked. His deep ball accuracy, obviously, now we know wasn't that's what people wanted to see. That's what they missed from Stetson Bennett. A lot of Georgia fans aren't as smart as you, Drew. Honestly, a lot of Georgia fans are stupid. So, they don't really know what they're watching. But Carson Beck turns out to be a great quarterback. And if he's the second best quarterback in the SEC, that's honestly a bold take, in my opinion. Like, I think he's been improving and looks really good, but like people have Brock Bowers like top 3 in the Heisman race.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike Bobo's been doing a terrific job with what he's been doing with him. I've mentioned that in multiple videos. What about Brady Cook from Missouri? I mean, he's been absolutely dominating. Even in the games that they've been losing, he has no defense, Drew.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if he had a Georgia defense. Who knows? Is Carson Beck number 3? He's for sure number 3 right now.
Yeah.
I believe that. I'm high on Carson Beck. Don't get me wrong, but I think Brady Cook, and I was trying to think of like another guy. I really can't in the SEC. KJ Jefferson, no. Jalen Milroe, no. Joe Milton, no.
Jackson Dart, maybe? Is he even worthy?
No. Jackson Dart's bad. No, he's bad. Oh, no. You watched them play Alabama? No.
Yeah.
Who did they play last week?
Was it Arkansas?
Yeah, I saw him miss some throws against Arkansas. I was like, dang, poor Lane Kiffin. But I love to see it as a Tennessee fan, honestly. I can't lie to you. I love to see that.
Take a look at the SEC West standings. I do want to talk a little bit about what's coming up for the SEC West. You got a lot of teams that are going to be playing each other, primarily Alabama and LSU. Let's see, LSU has one conference loss. They're still in it in terms of making it out of the West. Now, whether that happens or not is obviously to be seen. Let's see, we got Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss, A&M. Alabama's the only undefeated team left in the West. I guess it's pretty safe to say that they're the favorites to come out of the West now.
Yeah, for sure.
Still some tough games, though.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, still some tough games for Bama. I mean, they still got Tennessee. They still got LSU. They're on the road at Kentucky. They're on the road at Auburn. I mean, there are a couple games that Alabama could slip up if they have any games or, anything similar to what they had at the beginning of the season. But I don't see another team in the West.
I don't think LSU's defense. They can't do nothing. And Alabama's defense is so good they're going to get a stop. I mean, come on now, it's Nick Saban defense. I think that Alabama just beat the second best team in the SEC West. I think that was Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M will probably have one loss to Alabama. I think they'll sweep everyone else in the West this year. Yeah, so I think Alabama. It's really a question, in my opinion, of who's gonna win the East as a Tennessee fan, and then who comes out. Who comes out of the SEC, because it's gonna be Alabama versus somebody. Probably Alabama versus Georgia. Does Tennessee have a chance? Yes, in the fleeting light.
Gotta win the rest. Gotta win the rest. Tennessee, you can't lose from this point forward. Let's see what else. Yeah, because A&M has the one loss. Alabama will have the tiebreaker over them. Ole Miss has a loss to Alabama. Alabama has a tiebreaker over them. Yeah, as long if Alabama beats LSU, it's Alabama's to take.
Ole
I don't
Miss is
see.
gonna lose another game.
Yeah, I don't see Alabama losing more than one conference game if they were to lose one anyway. So yeah,
Yeah, I
t-
think that's it. What were you saying?
I was talking to myself. I'm just kind of reading what I'm looking at right now. I think that's about it. Unless you had some other stuff you wanted to talk about.
No, no, that covers it. I mean, hopefully Tennessee can come out of this six game stretch 5-1,
Yep.
and hopefully that one's against Alabama and not Georgia. We get them at home. So, but that's so far down the line. We just got to win this week. Georgia has a bye week, right?
They play Vanderbilt, and then I want to say they
Oh
play
yeah, so they
Missouri.
basically got a bye.
Yeah,
Yeah, so they basically got a
basically got a
bye.
bye. I'm pretty sure they got Missouri after that. No, it's Vanderbilt, then a bye, and they play Florida, and then they play Missouri, and then Ole Miss, and then Tennessee,
Where's the Florida game at?
Jacksonville.
Uh, I forget. Yeah, but dude, take a look at what that Wyoming Air Force game. That could be an interesting game.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Texas Tech, I think, is going to beat Kansas State. I like that for a lock as well. Honestly,
Really, has a lot.
the UNC, yeah. I really like Texas Tech. I've watched every game because of how much I like their offense. And
Mm-hmm.
like I mentioned, their defense does a good job with the pressure. Kansas, Oklahoma State, that seems a little bit obvious for me, but I think Kansas gets it done. But I get worried when it feels obvious to me, and
Yeah,
everybody else is agreeing with me. That normally lets me know I'm probably not looking at that game through the right lens. Um, like same thing with UNC Miami. Like you would think Miami's like in the dumps, but Van Dyke is still a great quarterback,
yeah,
you know?
for sure.
So like with that being said, I trust in North Carolina. I really like their tight end. I really like their quarterback. But could I see Miami coming out and Van Dyke slinging it? Yes. Miami beat A&M, so there's something to be said about that. But at the end of the day, I'm semi confident in my North Carolina pick. Um, like I said, I really like Texas Tech. I really like Kansas, and I'm gonna take a look at Wyoming and Air Force because Wyoming's been good to me so far this season. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it though for me.
That's pretty much it for me too. I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. If you guys or if anyone's still watching, we appreciate you guys for coming out. If you haven't already, please leave a thumbs up on the stream, even though it's about to end. Still helps us out tremendously. This gets uploaded as a video, and the likes go to that. So if you could leave a thumbs up, that would help us out. What's today? Tuesday? No, it's Wednesday now. It's 12 a.m. We'll be live Thursday, roughly around 10 p.m. So be on the lookout for that. I don't think there's anything else really to cover. We appreciate you guys for coming out. We'll see you next time, and be on the lookout for some